Well, welcome back to a chilly vintage steel garage. Today we're going all Italian on the Fiat 500. So if you watched the previous episode, you'll see I've got my truck in the garage so I can work on that. Plenty of room to work on that now it's in the garage. Porsche's outside, not long term, just for today. While I have a look at this Fiat 500 which I bought sight unseen. Paid a reasonable price for it. Well, no, I paid a good price for it considering it's got some problems. So I've got some money in the kitty, if you like, to repair it. It's got a suspected gearbox failure, which obviously the worst case scenario is a recon gearbox to be fitted. So let's have a poke around and see what we can see. The first obvious thing is, how much space do I have in the garage? Look at all this space. Maybe this is the future instead of American cars. Fiat 500s. Plenty of room. So let's have a look. Let's have a look and see if it's been serviced. I reckon not. Let's get the air filter off and see if it's had a recent filter change. Okay, so I've got the oil filter off. You can see there's quite a high build up. It must be some sort of blowback with the oil in there, and there's a lot of oil going down. It shouldn't be like that into the carburetor. That doesn't look good. There's a hose there split. Can you see? Breather hose. There's that split. Gearbox does look a bit wet down there, so I don't know if there's a flywheel oil leak. And I've also noticed coolant level, which I topped up. It's always very suspicious when you look in the boot and there's a can of coolant. That has actually gone down half level and it looks a bit yucky in there. Looks like that sort of K-seal stuff you put in, so could be into a head gasket problem with this, which is causing some crankcase pressure. I might whip a couple of plugs out and have a look at those, see what they look like, and take it from there. But again, you know, this is what happens. You get a new project, you're going to find some curveballs. Worst case scenario, new engine and gearbox, isn't it? We'll sort something out. We'll come up with something. Right, let's clean it up and see what we can do. Alright, let's have a look if this filter's ever been replaced. That'd be a no. You'll see it's pretty dirty. So we've done our initial walkthrough of Ditsy. You can see why it's called Ditsy, DTZ. The previous owner called it Ditsy. Well, she's done 90,000 miles. She's reputed to have had a clutch in it. I need to check the paperwork on that, but I'd definitely say she's lacking a little bit of attention. Not had a service. Needs an air filter. I've found a pipe at the back here. Let me show you. Found a pipe at the back there that's perish. You can see along there that's cracked. Now that's some sort of ventilation, positive ventilation, and I think it hasn't been sucking the air out and just been dumping the oil down there from the crankcase pressure. Because when I put my finger over that, there was a little bit of suckage, a little bit of vacuum, but it's not going to help with that big nasty split in it there. So there's that to sort out. The air filter, as you've seen, was filthy. The oil's filthy, so I would imagine it's not had an oil change either. It's got a coolant leak, and I couldn't work out where the coolant was going, but I think I've found out now. I'll just show you in here. Let's have a look. Right, the coolant's not gone down that much, but the telltale to me, if you look at that, you can see what looks like oatmeal in it, bits in it, and that is a telltale sign of having some sort of rad weld put in it. Now when you look at the radiator down here, let me see if I can shine through, you can see basically the core of the matrix is completely shot, and this is further supported by the fact that when it was running there was a bit of steam coming from the front of the car. So it's going to need a new radiator. To get the radiator in, it's the bumper off, front bumper off, and there's a crash bar behind it that has to come off. The crash bar picks up on those chassis rails down there. In fact, you can just probably see it down there. And then the radiator goes in. So we're going to have to take the bumper off, crash bar off, radiator out, air filter, oil filter, hose at the back. Oh, spark plugs there, interesting. Let me show you these spark plugs. Now then, spark plug gap is meant to be about 1 millimetre. See, this spark plug is not 1 millimetre. I don't think it's ever had a spark plug. You can see the tips completely worn away. This could explain the misfire that it's got. And in fact, this lollipop stick is 1.8 millimetres. I can actually push that in. So the spark plug gap is twice what it should be. So they are completely shot. So I need to get some new spark plugs. So a new set of spark plugs, new hoses, new spark plug, new hoses, new radiator, new coolant, new filter. Probably, I bet, may even be a cam belt on this. And I've not even got to the transmission problem. But of course, this breather pipe off the top, if it wasn't breathing properly, that could be the oil leaking down onto the hot exhaust, which was explaining the smell of oil. But there is, what I think, a bit of a transmission noise when I drive it. So I'm going to put it back together, go through a bit of a drive in it, and then make a final list of what we need to do on this car. I've gone to take the second spark plug out, and you can see actually the cap was actually snapped off already, and there's a bit of rust on the top of that. So I'd say that top of that plug has been broken before. So I'm pretty sure someone's broke that before, and that could explain the misfire as well. Let's get the whole spark plug out and take a look. So this is plug number 4 I've just taken out. And you can clearly see again the gap is ridiculously wide. This actually, again, this is a lollipop stick which is 2 mil diameter. I can actually fit that in the plug. So the gap is twice the size it should be. The electrode has just completely worn away. I don't think they've ever been replaced. It's done 90,000 miles. Look at the corrosion on that. These have never been replaced. And look at this here. When I took the lead off, I thought I'd snap the cap off, but I actually think that there's a bit of corrosion around there. I think that was broken already, so that actually could be the misfire. So I'm just going to check all the other plugs and see what we get, and then come back. So just finished my initial survey of a little Fiat 500 Ditzy. Got a list of a few things to go through. It needs a service. It's clear it's never had a service or a long time ago, so it needs oil filter, air filter, spark plugs and oil. That will cover that. The radiator is corroded at the bottom. That's gone. They don't last forever, so it needs a new radiator. The transmission noise, I've listened to that with my stethoscope and driving it. I think it's the clutch, the thrust washer, the thrust bearing, or the clutch arm itself. And the reason I think that is, it makes the same noise in every gear. It's like a noise like a brake disc rubbing, something like that. It makes it in every gear. It's consistent with the engine revs. If you dip the clutch, it goes away, so it sounds like it's the clutch. What I'm going to do as a precaution is I'm going to drop the gearbox oil and see if there's any particles in that, because the only thing I can think that will go wrong with a gearbox is main bearings or bearings fail and they'll debris in the oil. So I'm going to drop the gearbox oil and have a look at that. There's a rear suspension noise. There's a clonk at the rear suspension as you're driving along. I don't know what that is. It could be a bearing, could be a shock absorber, could be the rear arm. It's not insurmountable. Driver's door handle's stiff. Basically it just stays open. It stays pulled out so the door doesn't shut and you've got to push it back in, so probably needs a bit of lubrication on that. Centre dash lights aren't all fully working. There's that breather pipe that I showed you that was split on the carburettor. Well, on the it's not the carburettor, is it? But you know what I'm talking about. Locking wheel nut, can't find that anywhere, so I need to speak to the previous owner on that. I'm going to change the coil pack just as a precaution for that misfire, and I'm going to, as I say, change the gearbox oil. So sounds a big list, looks a big list, but I would say I could probably do that for about 200, 250 pounds in parts, and then my own labour. And I think anyone could do this really. I'm sure if you took that to a garage, you'd probably be talking maybe near 700 to £1,000 of all the parts, and that would probably kill this car off, which is probably what's happened with the previous owner. So it is good if you can do it yourself, because you can save all your labour. So let me get these parts ordered, and then we can get on to the next stage with repairing stuff. Yay! Please like, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye.